Good morning. Good morning. Hi, this is David Theus and Peggy Lynch to my left or to my right, whichever way it shows up on your screen, with 21K Promotions. And today we are initiating our first official Alliance member spotlight. And we are brought to you by the Northeast Florida Business Alliance and the Small Business Patriot. And so our goal in this endeavor is to feature some of our members that operate owners of small businesses and or professionals, meaning if you work for someone else, you don't own your own business, but you live and reside in Clay County, Duval County, and St. Johns County, Florida, then you are a potential member of the Alliance, the Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And if you don't figure this out straight away, I'll help you get a clear picture. My goal in this endeavor is to create as many vehicles and tools and platforms to promote our fellow members. And my goal, I'm a huge fan of small business. I'm a small business person myself, a staunch advocate. And the goal here is to create viable working platforms and mediums in which I can allow our members to tell their story and introduce them to the communities at large. And if there's anyone out there that's listening or watching via YouTube or on Spotify today, you might want to share this information with a friend or a colleague. If Peggy's business that is something that sparks of interest or a need of yourself, we're going to give some contact information in the show notes on how to get a hold of Peggy. But also, you could share this information with a friend or colleague that might be looking for the type of services that she provides. And so I encourage you to just, you know how to do that. Just share the link and share it to your friend, whether it be on Facebook or LinkedIn or an email, and we'll go from there. But the concept, again, is to promote my fellow small business people, small business persons, and fellow professionals in Clay, Duval, and St. Johns County. And we're going to talk to some people. Peggy's one of them today, that she lives and resides in St. Johns County and St. Augustine, but she conducts business in those three counties and outside of those three counties. And we'll talk about how that happens via technology and those things that are obvious to most of us. So let's get started. Episode number 1, Peggy, what do you think?
Oh, I'm excited.
You get to set the bar. So no pressure. You get to set the bar and where we go from here. But if you don't recognize Peggy, she's been somewhat of a sidekick or co-host on several of these trial episodes we've been doing, and we got some feedback recently that were somewhat entertaining, I guess, or and informative too. So I was encouraged by that.
Oh, good.
So let's get started. We have a general theme that that I promote in all of our gatherings when we're in person. We do some lunch meetings and some after hours events, and it's real simple. It's who are you? What do you do? And I feel most importantly, and I'll get into why that is, why do you do it? So who are you? What do you do? And why? And we've got plenty of time, Peggy, so I'm not sitting here with a 60-second buzzer to buzz you out of the room. Take your time. So give us, you know the format. Give us a little introduction of who you are, what you do, and why. So good morning.
All right. Okay. Yes. Good morning. So my name is Peggy Lynch. I'm a proud member of the Alliance, and I run a business called 21K Promotions, and that is branded merchandise for the most part. As much as I provide branded merchandise, hundreds of thousands of products, mostly what I offer and provide is solutions. Would you like me to give you an example of one of my favorite recent solutions?
Yeah, by all means. On that note, hold that thought in your head because sometimes I go off and get people lost. I'm a storyteller. All of us remember as children, maybe mom, dad, grandparents telling stories. And it's these little nuggets when you tell a story that each one of us listening is able to take away and identify something that matches to their needs or concerns. So, yes, please share maybe 1 or 2 episodes if you got it.
Okay, this was my favorite. I had been working with a client on what they call high visibility wearables, okay? And I believe it's the government requires them to have these for their employees out in the yards. So this project has been on and off a number of times, and finally it came down to we can't find a ladies cut high vis t-shirt with a pocket. Okay, so I searched and searched and searched like forever, and then finally it dawned on me, we've got a lady who's a member of the Alliance who's an expert seamstress and does high volume orders. So came to mind, I said, you know what, why don't we just order the ladies cut t-shirts with no pocket? Renee can buy the fabric and make the pockets and stitch them on, then we get them imprinted. So that's the process we're going. So this is going to be a very high volume order.
Oh, okay, hold on. So the ladies cut is the driving force behind this that was difficult to find what you were looking for initially. Okay,
Right.
and it had to have a pocket.
It has to have a pocket, and
Okay.
it doesn't exist.
Okay, so you got a couple things going on industry wise. A lady's garment in this particular style, and it needs to have a pocket what's not out there. And so and I assume is the emblem or the brand on the pocket itself, or what happens?
It will ultimately be on the pocket.
Um, okay. And so will that be embroidered,
Screen printed.
screen printed?
Mhm.
Okay.
So with that, we have a lot of steps, more steps than I've ever dealt with, because it has to go from the shirt manufacturer to the seamstress to sew the pockets, from the seamstress to the decorator, from the decorator back to the client.
Ah, okay. All right. So there's a perfect situation. By the way, well, Renee, you're talking about Renee, our Renee, that's a member of the organization.
Yes, I am.
Okay, we'll come back to that note in just a second. But so that is a solution. You're what I like to call creating a customized or tailored, viable working solution. Now, I'm sure I can't speak to any case in point, but I know I've run across this where someone may come back to you as a vendor, coming back to a customer and say, you know, gee, Dave, we've searched all over the place and that's just not something they make. Can we look at something else, another alternative? You know, so the customer wants X, the universe, believe it or not, doesn't deliver that. And yet you figured out a way. How did you, give us a little insight in Peggy's thinking process as far as, was it like, oh no, I'm not gonna come back with a no, I'm gonna figure out a way to do it? How did that happen? What goes on in your
Oh,
head?
absolutely. I continue to search, and I have resources where I throw a question out, some groups, and say, do you know anybody that has
Yeah.
this, blah, blah. And then just suddenly one day I'm thinking, the biggest problem here that's holding up this whole order is that pocket. And then I
Yeah.
thought, I should just stitch a pocket on there. And I'm a seamstress, but not like Renee. So, plus we'll probably start with 100 pieces and increase it, with following orders. So it's going to be a somewhat high volume job for her. So it came to me, I thought, we've got somebody in the group that can do this.
Huh.
So problem solved. And when I mentioned to the client, I said, here's what I think we should do. And she's loved it. She says, okay. So I'm kind of waiting for the sign off on the PO.
Okay. So I love it. First of all, you're introducing one of our fellow Northeast Florida Business Alliance members. We'll come back to why that's important. But the bottom line is you're listening to your customers' needs and concerns, and then going out instead of with a can't do mentality, you're saying, well, we're gonna do this. I have a can do outlook on this thing. I've often you're kind of like a dog with a bone. Don't give her something that's hard to find. She'll find it.
That's
Uh,
right.
and then you communicate it back to your customer. You know, did you ever share with them some of the initial hurdles that hey, I'm not done. We're
Oh,
running.
yeah.
Okay, so they had an understanding that there could be some timing delay because you hadn't found the resource yet. You hadn't found the solve. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we were in constant communication. So yeah.
what is your feedback on that as far as, not to prompt you too much, but I mean, what have you discovered when you're working with a customer and the need for communication, even communication that sometimes may be perceived as bad news initially? What is your outlook on that?
Well, actually, that word came up in one of our earlier episodes, one of our podcasts, and I said that is my favorite word in the whole wide world. Communication. You have to communicate whether it's good or bad news. People need information, okay? And I pride myself on communicating with my clients, and um, I let them know ship dates and estimated processing times and so forth. And I'll text them or email and just say, look, got a little setback at the factory. It's going to take a couple more days. So, they need to know. It might not be good news for them, but they need to know. So, and another another example of communication, which was going to be one of my other stories, because the other success I had in providing solutions this past week was there was an event occurring, or last weekend, event occurring for my client, and they needed T-shirts, quite a large number of T-shirts that were screen printed, and we were right down to the wire. So instead of taking a chance on UPS, I called my courier and had the stuff picked up and delivered to my client. And they were going to close at 3 o'clock. It was going to be cut really close. So I continued to text my client, okay, they're on this street, they're pulling into the parking lot, it's this color car, and they hooked up and they got the shirts. She texted in time for the event. She texted later and she said, talk about hot off the press. The minute these shirts were done, my courier was there and got them over to my client. So that, again, is communication. Then she bragged on me to her boss, about the communication. It's just extremely important.
In your business, you've just laid out an example of something that was timely because of the event. But it's not unlike anyone else's. I mean, everyone has a start point and a deadline. Deadlines, I guess that's what they call it, deadline, is because this is this is it. It has to be here at a certain time. There is some flexibility oftentimes in those dates and times, but we're all of us, no matter what. I remember back in the days of the furniture business, my product, the contract office furniture, if you can look at a building and see a structure, was the last to roll in. I mean, we were the last people we had to wait for the obvious construction of the building, the clearing of the land, the construction of the building, the electricians, the wall finishing, the painters, the floor coverings, the carpet to go in. And so there were 10 to 15 different trades ahead of us before we got there. And the customer would 9 times out of 10 come to us and say, well, we got to be in the building. People got to be sitting at their desk doing their work on March 1st.
Mhm.
Okay, well, it's September, the year previous. Or a lot of times you get people March 1st and it'd be like January. And then you're like, I'm not
Mhm.
a magician, but let's see what we can do, But the longer the lead time, obviously, the better. But we're never guaranteed or afforded that opportunity to have that much lead time. And sometimes we have to jump through hoops. So if we're not communicating to our customers, especially when it comes time to jump through hoops, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. If you're not communicating, in that moment, it's your fault. And the customer's only going to see whether they directly correlate it to being your fault. They're going to have a bad experience in their mind that it didn't get fulfilled, or at least to my expectations. And so
Mhm.
I always tell people, and you champion this, you can never go wrong with sharing valuable, information, important information to your customers' timeline, because even if things miss the mark and not out of your, clearly out of your control, if things miss the mark, that person walks away saying, "Hey, we were informed. Life happens. We had a hurricane, or the supply chain is screwed up. Whatever it is, as long as the people know then we're in good shape. And that's kind of a segue coming up in a minute for something I want to talk about. But so, um, cool. What did you find? What was the benefit in your mind about knowing about Renee Thorpe of DI Renee Creations, and this solution? Kind of walk us through the steps of the serendipitous moment when you thought to yourself, well, wait a minute, I've got someone I can call on. How did that kind of formulate in your thoughts?
Well, from the time that I met Renee on one of our calls, Zoom calls, uh, I, in my mind, she doesn't know how much I clicked with her, but I have so much admiration for what she does because I'm a seamstress for many, many, many years. And, um, I just haven't had much opportunity to work with, sewing much lately. So I'm a little bit envious, that she gets to do this and get paid for it. So she's always been on my mind. And then, especially that day when I started thinking, we need, we need to sew a pocket on, and I'm like, well, I can't, I don't have time to do that. I thought, silly, Renee. So yeah, and so I contacted her and I said, what do you think? She's, yeah, absolutely, I can do it.
I think it's so important as we move forward. Um, we've been in this internet space for, I mean, really active since the early '90s. The internet was kind of fledgling and not so much like it is now, but I would say from the '90s forward, it's been a progressive movement in our lives. And clearly, I'm not one of those guys, that's a flat Earth guy that thinks that the internet's bad. There's been some serious advantages to what we've done and how we've come with technology, but I think we've lost something too. And what we've lost is that relationship piece of there's such an urgency to cut the middleman out, so to speak. There's such an urgency to preserve our gross profit and to do it without contact, that your relationship with Renee proved to be an asset, and it's really not the that segment of your relationships is not representative of the light speed internet process that we live in. You know what I mean? It's kind of old school. And I can't
Mhm.
think of a better term to say it, but the relationship piece of it that you're able to pull from your quiver of arrows. I have someone in my own back pocket who can do this, is not representative of Googling or going online and trying to find a solution. It's something that's, what is old is new again, kind of thing, was what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say. And so um I think that's so important as we move forward. I think we're nearly raising a generation that has gotten really good at cutting the middleman out. And
Mhm.
and you and I are middlemen. I mean, to some degree. I think if you took a business class 101 and understood wholesale, manufacturing wholesale, jobbers, there were people called jobbers in the middle of the process, representatives, retail, end user, suggested retail manufacturing price, and all that good stuff. There was a system. Now, some of that we can make an argument, and I won't get too far in the weeds here, but some of that we can make an argument of the inefficiencies of that. And the inefficiencies are measured by profit. And so
Mhm.
the internet has exposed to us ways to keep cutting those guys out of the picture. Now, you can make an argument that is sound. It's sound business advice and sound business, activity. But the thing we've lost is the people, the people in those steps and those processes. And they're not any less important than they were before. And with those people, not just to preserve their jobs, but those people, they provide for their families. And they're people that we can have genuine relationships with and be positive with. So um, I'm not advocating that we go back to the horse and cart and
Mhm.
the wooden plow days. I'm just saying what's old is new again. I think I've always said this. I think at some point Yeah, I get it. I can get it cheaper at Amazon. It'll be here delivered sometimes today, or I can get it at Walmart. They'll come deliver it today. But at some point, one of us is going to walk into a store and say, look, I'll pay 15, 20% more if someone would just help me. If someone
Yeah.
would just provide me some damn service, I'll pay more for it. And I think I think it's on the verge of happening now. Of course, the things we've got going on, it's even worse with the inflation. But um, I don't know. Without getting too far into the weeds on that, any thoughts on that, Dave's esoteric theory on? Do you share any of that thought, or am I just crazy?
No, no, no. I agree 100%, and I'm glad what's old is new because we cannot overlook the importance of, human contact relations. So you can ultimately do a lot of things on the computer, but a quick example is, yes, I have online only competition, but I can promise you that if my client was talking with them, that competition, that company would not have provided the solution or perhaps any solution as I did. So, got to have the interaction.
Can I tell a story real quick?
Yeah.
Um, it's your show, Dave. You can do it what you want.
Right.
I want to be sensitive to your time. And you know this, but some of you don't know this. But I have had two careers. My second career was in the financial services as the official term was a registered rep. So I was not a financial advisor from the American college standpoint, but a registered rep. And a lot of my business started with long-term care, because my parents were aged and dying, and I saw the need for it, and I just, as a small business person, said, "Well, that's easy enough. I'll get licensed and sell long-term care insurance." Anyway, so I had a significant book of business of long-term care policies, and I met a gentleman. Some of that business came from what they called inheriting orphans. So someone wrote the business years before they got out of the business, died or whatever. So you inherit them, and it becomes a servicing kind of relationship. But I met this gentleman in Lake City. I won't say any names. Um, I don't know, 10, no, it's been longer than that, 15 years ago at least. Early on in my stint as beginning. And he had a policy on himself and his wife. And my goal was to go out and talk to them and then, make sure they were fine. Everything was up to speed. They understood what they had. And if they had, of course, I was in sales. If they had any extra needs or concerns, I could address them while I'm there and maybe provide another solution. Well, he is a sticky kind of curmudgeon guy and very successful. And he was taken care of. He didn't need anything else from me, but he was pretty much letting me know, you know, thanks for the call, but I'm not interested. So, I gave him my card. We stayed in contact. He was on a newsletter list I used to do, and he would receive that. Well, lo and behold, he calls this past week. Now, I've been out of the business for 5 years, and he calls and introduces himself. And right when I heard his voice, I knew it was. I mean, I have this crazy memory for that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And he said, "Do you remember who I am, Dave?" I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. I can see you in my mind. How can I help you?" He goes, "Well, are you still in the business?" I said, "No, sir. I retired 4.5, 5 years ago." And he goes, "Well, shoot, you probably can't help me." I said, "No, I can help you. What do you need?" And he goes, "Well, my wife is in need of care. She's had an event, and she's been in the hospital for now, too many details, but she's reached 100 days of elimination period, basically.
Mm.
What do I do? I've got these letters, and what can you help me at all?" And I said, "Well, listen, I'm not an agent anymore. There's two paths. You're going to call the office. They're going to give you the 800 number, and you're going to have to walk through the 800. And these people are very professional over at John Hancock's, who I worked with, and they'll get you through it. But he's 83 years old. It's funny when you need the personal interaction, they give you an 800 number. You would think it, but it's
Right.
dollars and cents at that point. And
Mhm.
so I said, Mr. Bob, I'm going to help you. Um, let me walk you through the steps, what you should anticipate, And then we need to get your son on the line. I need to talk to be able to, but I need to have you, your son, and some information available. And so we talked for about 20 minutes, and he was almost in tears because he gotten to the point where his wife was being taken care of, but she was ending the 100 days of elimination period. So that facility was going to move her to the next one, and they were going to incur about a $7,000 a month bill. Now, he probably had the money to do it, but he knew he had a policy that he wanted to activate as well. And so that personal touch, it hung the moon. Now I got nothing for that. I'm not saying we all go out and become, giving stuff away, because you can't make a living doing that, obviously. But that's the piece that we miss by cutting the middleman out, is that interrelationship that we have with one another as fellow humans. I think that's critical. I think I know that's what made us as a nation so great, is that we have people that are, here comes my national anthem with the flag waving by, but we have people that are free market, free enterprise, capitalist people that want to make a buck and make a profit. Gosh, who was it that said that? Someone's going to know this exactly what I'm talking about. Capitalism is the only system that you serve the customer to make the profit. This needs to be part of my diatribe here. But other systems, where the government comes in and takes over, for example, socialism or communism, but capitalism flips the script. Capitalism says the customers first. Think about it. In your relationship with your customers, you have to give away your service in exchange to make a profit.
That's
So
right.
who's the number one in that relationship? The customer.
Customer is number one.
And in a society, as man, woman, it's a great system, first of all, but it's somewhat odd in comparison to other parts of the world. That's why we've been such a great country, is because capitalism says whatever the customer wants. Free market says, if you want something, I'll go source it. I'll figure out a way to make it or find it. And then you're going to pay me a profit margin based on, what it costs me to get it and procure it. And then for the services I provide, I should make a little bit, right? That's capitalism.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to bring us back in the fold. That's what we're losing. This internet piece, under the whole auspice of, we can make better gross profit and make better margin and cut the middleman out. I think we're taking away, at the end, we're going to self-eat and self-destroy capitalism. So, all right, that's the small business patriot portion of our show. I'm passionate about that, in case you can't figure that out. But anyway, okay, so Peggy, what excites you about this business, Peggy? I mean, you've been doing this. How long have you been in this segment of your business?
Well, this segment's 7 years, but I started in the industry in 1984.
Were you on the manufacturing side or something? What were you doing?
I was. I started on the supplier side.
Huh.
In Orlando, Florida.
And so, say it again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, or in Orlando, Florida.
In Orlando.
Yes. You know that place.
When were you in Orlando?
1984 and maybe 84 and 85.
We have this, you accuse me of being your brother from a different mother.
Yes.
That's not an accusation. That's a compliment. And I'm one of these guys that remembers everybody I've met. I don't know how, but my dad gave me that gift or something. But you were in Orlando. Where did you live in Orlando?
In Winter Park. By the college? No, I wasn't right near the college. I was right across the street from Lake Killarney, which there was a house on that on the lake there that used to be a speakeasy back in the day.
Seems appropriate.
Right? How did I
So,
find that?
so that's the heyday of Park Avenue.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder if we crossed paths somewhere along. 84, I was in Europe from about March to December, I guess. But
Mhm.
85, huh?
I have to believe we did
I
cross
think we did. Do you
in that.
remember? You remember an ice cream shop called East India?
Yes, but I didn't
Yeah,
eat a lot of ice cream, so
yeah. Well, so all right. I don't know if I should tell you this funny story. Well, I almost feel like we should.
go.
I'm gonna get myself in trouble, but maybe it's part of the entertaining. All right, so I got to tell you a funny Park Avenue story. Let's make sure we wrap up first, and I'll end up with the story.
Okay.
And it's about this episode. This thought is about getting under, peeling back the onion, and getting to know the people that we're dealing with. So anytime you go to one of these networking meetings, or you go to a room, or you meet someone, you say, "Oh, I'm a branding specialist, or I'm a plumber, or I'm an attorney." Well, that's cool and all, but so is that guy and that guy and that gal. Who cares? What do you do differently? So the whole goal for Northeast Florida Business Alliance is to for me to create these venues and vignettes where people can pop into their schedule the things that we're doing and carve out time to get to know one another, so they can
Mhm.
sit across the table from break bread, have a glass of wine or iced tea, whatever, and we get to know each other. And that's how we discover empathy transfers to one another. We develop some trust with one another, and as I always say, once trust starts to happen, business begets business. So and sometimes that involves a quirky little story about a fun. You've heard that fun fact. What's a fun fact for you? But Winter Park Art Festival, that was another thing. You ever take a part of that? Did you ever do that?
Well, I didn't exhibit there. No, I.
Well, but I mean, you couldn't help but where you live. Did you play golf at that little municipal golf course right there?
No, I wasn't playing golf at that time.
Okay, probably, but I've hit a few cars over there because it's a really
Oh,
tight
did
course.
you?
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
I can't play here anymore. I got a terrible slice. And um,
okay.
all right, let me tell you my Park Avenue story, and we're gonna get out of here. Is that okay?
That's
So
good.
I grew up in Orlando before Disney, as I like to say. And if you're not familiar with Winter Park, it's where Rollins College is, the Ivy League of the South, so to speak. And we Park Avenue is Main Street right through Winter Park, and all the cute shops. And there's a beautiful big park on the side. Thus the name.
Yeah.
And jazz concerts up there all the time. They had a great jazz radio station right there in Winter Park that I was great friends with, 103.1 or whatever it was. And I used to be on the radio up there, in fact, a couple times. But so it was a great place for us Orlandoans to go for. This is before Disney, mind you. Disney was somewhere to go. Um, if you were going to go on a date, you went to Park Avenue. At some point, either you went to dinner or you would end up in Park Avenue for East India ice cream. Um, and you take a stroll along the park, and the things you do on dates. And so I had this routine, and I would pick up a gal and we'd go, let's go get ice cream and go walk the park. Oh, that's a great idea. And so there was a train station in Park Avenue in Winter Park. It's the Winter Park Amtrak train station. It's a cool kind of eclectic, old school train station, and it's well used. People use it to transport on Amtrak all the time. So it's very, clean and up to date and that sort of thing. And it's kind of nostalgic looking. And so toward the end of the date, we would walk northbound along the strip where the shops are and come southbound along the park side, which is also where the train tracks were, the station was, and then heading toward East India ice cream. So that gives everybody kind of perspective. The end goal was to get to the ice cream parlor. So I had this routine. This is going to give you a little insight on how I don't do this anymore, by the way, but because I'm married.
Uh-oh.
So I would have a couple like nickels or pennies in my pocket along the way, planned out a pseudo engineer thinking process. And so I'd say, hey, this to the gal that we're walking with. I got a crazy idea. Just follow me on this. So we would venture through the park over to the train station, and I had it figured out. I knew the train schedule, like at 9 or whatever it was. And she was
Mhm.
like, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I mean, let's see if this works out. I've heard you could do this. So we would place pennies or nickel on the train track. Okay. Well, lo and behold, you know, I could look at my watch and I wouldn't say anything. Well, is that a train I hear coming? So I knew the train schedule when I had to be in the park to do this. And lo and behold, the train would come in. Of course, it would smash the nickel. You don't want to put a big one, you probably derail the train. Smash the nickel or the penny because they're copper and nickel is pretty malleable. And then it was like, what are you doing? And so I would have to go dig around into the tracks near the train. Sometimes the train would go through, but I would keep an eye on it, and I would find the coin that was smashed.
Mhm.
Now, get ready. Here comes the tagline.
Uh-oh.
Here comes the close. And she would be just totally amazed by this whole process. Wow, this is actually kind of cool. And I'd say, you know what, this is actually kind of cool. Here's one for you. Here's your coin, and I'm going to keep this coin and let this be a token of the memory of tonight.
Sappy.
Happy. Oh my gosh. And so, by then I'm good for a kiss, at least kiss goodnight. And, ice cream, it's a done deal. This is 1980, early 80s, by the way. So we weren't as progressive as they are today.
Right.
Good church going folks, maybe a hand hold and a kiss. And that was the night. And so that was the night. She got a token of Latin coin and an ice cream and a stroll in the park. And I did too. So here's the catch. I'm working at this place in the Factory Outlet Mall, and I've connected with a young lady there, and I've asked her out for a date. And so, it's in the cards. We're going to Winter Park, and so
Mhm.
we go up to Winter Park, and the charade happens again. I got the coins out. We're doing the whole thing again, and she's just blown away. And
Mhm.
and we just have another, hand hold and a kiss, good night, and, ice cream. We're all
Mhm.
good, and had a good night. Well, so lo and behold, we get back to work, and she's, the word got out that we went on a date. Well, this is where Dave got screwed up.
Uh-oh.
There's another gal that works at the place I work, and we did the same routine. It didn't really materialize into anything special. We were still friends, but it just didn't go any further. And so this Susie, the latest girl, is telling about this date or that we went out, and Betty in the back goes, "Oh, did he take you to Park Avenue for the train and the coin deal?" And
Uh-oh.
so the other girl goes, "Well, yeah, he did. Did he tell you about that?" And he goes, "No, he does that with all the girls." And so at that moment, the coin train deal was the last episode. It was over. That was the last and final time that I would take women to my dates to Park Avenue and pull the train stunt. So
I got a question for you.
yeah, please.
How big is your collection of coin safe?
Ah, um, not that big. I know I'm probably deceiving you on that, but no, I would say I could count them on one hand.
I
And
had
it's, yeah, well, no, I mean, it was a great idea. I was guilty of mixing the audiences up, and then it was done. So it was a good life lesson. As a young, I don't know, 20 something year old, I think I started that gig when I was about 18. So I don't know. I was just a small town kid trying to figure out a way through life, and
brilliant.
it was cute. And I got a lot of laughs out of it. And the girls were actually pretty good sports about it. So it wasn't a big problem. They remembered. I bet they're telling that story to their grandkids somewhere now.
Yep.
Anyway. All right. Well, now we've gone way off the rails, so to speak.
Okay.
Peggy, you have any closing notes before I wrap up?
The only thing I would say is relationships, personal relationships are so important, and we covered that.
Stay away from train stations, though.
And oh, that's another one.
All right. Well, thank you for humoring me on that last bit. I don't know if that adds or takes anything away from the episode, but hopefully I don't want to take away from you, Peggy, because you're the focus of this, but we're
It's all
connected
good.
somehow, some way, I bet. Anyway,
Yeah.
Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions. You're awesome. We've done business together, and I can speak with authority and experience that you talk the talk and walk the walk. You communicate all the way through the process from start to finish. And if there's any, hiccups or whatever, and those are few, but you've walked every process through to the end, and I've a satisfied customer, here, and we'll do
Wonderful.
business in the future as well. So if you need any of those types of services, and of course you can work in the Tri-County area. I'm going to start that, the Tri-County area, Clay, Duval, and St. John's. But you're from the Midwest, Chicagoland area, and you've got customers in, I think last time the report was about 7 different states. And
70%.
because of this internet and this technology, the good things that come from this, I think you can still incorporate relationships and communication into that process. You're able to do business in other parts of in other regions of the country. So if you're listening to this from somewhere else and you feel like you need a personal touch to this type of business that Peggy does, then give Peggy Lynch a call. And look at that. She's got her phone number right there on the screen. That's pretty cool. And I'll be sure to put her website and email address into the show link as well. And you can reach out to her and touch base with her. And of course, share this episode with someone that might be interested in watching it or listening to it. All right. Well, that wraps it up. Episode number 1. So Peggy, thank you so much again. My name is David Theus with Northeast Florida Business Alliance and the Small Business Patriot. And I'll be sure to put a link in there how you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, the Small Business Patriot, as well. And it's chock full of small business tips, insights, and legislative updates from Washington, our Republican Committee on Small Businesses, and that is senior member Blaine. I always get that messed up because we have a guy in our group named Blake. No, Blaine Lukenmeyer. Yeah, it is Blaine. Blaine Lukenmeyer out of Missouri is the senior member chair of that committee for the Republican Party of Small Business in Washington. So anyway, check out our newsletter. It's free, and I'll put a connection on how to sign up for that. And again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, and be prosperous. Stay vigilant.
Very good. Thanks, David.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.